Hi there, as a part of AgilePoint's version 10 release, we're happy to announce support for N8N. Now, if you're hearing that name for the first time, N8N is an open source platform for building agentic workflows and also includes an agent builder. So over the course of this video, we're going to highlight how the two solutions can work together, AgilePoint's support for N8N, and most importantly, how AgilePoint, as an agentic orchestration platform, can bring together various discrete workflows as a part of a larger end-to-end application and invoke them dynamically as required by the context of our business process. So as always, we're going to start this video by creating an access token. So moving into the Manage module under App Builder, you'll see Global Access Tokens. Now I'm going to set up a global token which is reusable across a number of applications, but you can always set this up on a per application basis as well. So here we have our existing N8N token. Let's go ahead and open it up. Now for the access token configuration, you're seeing things like the service URL, verbs, content types, protocols, etc. A lot of this is going to come from N8N itself. Now with the way this platform is configured, I do need to set up an access token for each workflow that I've built within N8N. So first and foremost, you're seeing here, I have a production URL, which I can copy and paste in to my service URL. The action will be post. The content type will be JSON. Now from an authentication perspective, you're seeing here when I click configure, it asks for a username and password. So again, this can be set up within N8N. You're seeing here, I have the credentials for basic authentication. So I'd simply copy and paste those into my AgilePoint access token. I've provided a sample JSON payload, and after this, I'll go ahead and click Test Connection. And if I'm creating this access token for the first time, I would go ahead and click Save. Now in my case, I already have one configured, so I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of this. And now we can start taking a look at the various N8N workflows that we'll use as a part of our sample application. Our first process is in charge of parsing an inbound document and classifying it into a number of different types. Secondly, we have a process dedicated to extracting the details from a statement of work. And finally, extracting details from a licensing agreement. Now these are all using OpenAI as the LLM behind the scenes, but as you've just seen, these are discrete processes with no relation to one another. So we're going to now demonstrate how AgilePoint can bring all of those together as a part of a larger end-to-end process. Now, before we walk through our application, let's first understand what's available in the N8N activity group. So first and foremost, you're seeing here, there are two categories of activities. We have inline actions like invoke agent, which you'll see a little bit later on in the process, as well as the concept of an AI control tower, where we can adapt the flow, inject an ad hoc task, initiate a sub-process, invoke an agent, or send a notification. Now turning our attention to the AgilePoint application, as you're seeing here, it's pretty simple, but will be highly dynamic as we mentioned earlier. So the process will start, and our first activity is where we submit a new document for processing. We'll convert that document to text, and then the process will end. However, across the top, you're seeing an AI control tower, which will make a call into that document classification workflow that we just showed you in N8N. So looking at our control tower, we have our N8N access token already set up. Now the AI control tower is an event-driven framework. So as you're seeing here, this AI control tower will trigger when read from text has been completed. And optionally, I can bring in additional filter conditions. From a request perspective, I've provided the structure, which as you're seeing here is the path of the document and the data itself. And as you can see here, I've mapped that. In the response, I've again provided a sample schema, what I expect to come back from N8N, which is how this document has been classified and whether it's a license agreement, statement of work, or something else. And then lastly here, you're seeing the process that should be initiated as a result. So what you're seeing here is this process is completely dynamic, as N8N will be telling me the process that should be launched. So again, I'll map the schema. And as you're seeing here, I'm mapping the classification as well as the process that will be launched as a result. Okay, so here under additional actions, the subprocess that will be initiated is the variable that we just configured as a part of our response. I can apply additional rules such that if the category is license agreement, statement of work, or other, only then invoke a process. And of course, the process that will be invoked was determined here. So in summary, a very simple process to start with, but will be highly dynamic based on what is coming back from N8N. Let's take a look at the other processes that comprise this solution. The first thing you'll notice here is that rather than have a control tower, I now have an N8N activity inline because I know I'll have to extract data from a document. So let's open up the configuration. So for one, I've selected my connection to N8N and again provided the schema, which is the path of the document and the document text itself, which I have mapped. Now the response is going to give me the extracted JSON, which again I can map back to a variable. Now from here, the process will compare against what's stored in other downstream customer systems of record, namely Salesforce and SharePoint, and provides a human-in-the-loop activity to review any differences between that extracted document and our downstream systems, with the option to harmonize the data across all of the various sources. Now, before we run this application, I do want to point out we have a very similar process for statement of work documents. But with that being said, let's go ahead and kick off the application. Okay, so opening up our application, we have a number of details that have been pre-filled. So at this point, what I need to do is attach a document for processing. Okay, so that document has now been uploaded. Okay, so we've kicked off our process. We'll go into our process tracker. All right, so as you're seeing here, my parent process has already completed. So if I go back into my process tracker and refresh, we're going to see that child process. So looking at our child process, as you can see here, the license agreement type was activated. We've gone through the steps of parsing the JSON, extracting the elements that are required, and then comparing those details against what's stored in our downstream systems. So now, as a result, I have a human-in-the-loop task to review all of these details. Go ahead and open this up. And what we're going to see here is essentially a side-by-side comparison. So first and foremost, you're seeing all of the key details that have been extracted from that document. Things like the account record that it pertains to, agreement name, type, licensor, and licensee. But as mentioned, there is going to be a side-by-side comparison. On the left-hand side, showing what's been extracted from the newly uploaded agreement versus the details stored in my downstream systems of record. Now, as a final step, I did mention we can harmonize the data across these various sources. So as you're seeing here, I have a number of different options. I can take the metadata extracted from that agreement and pass it over to Salesforce and SharePoint. Document upload might trigger a new contracts management process or the option to effect no change. Okay, so with that, that's going to conclude the content for this video. I hope this now gives you a better understanding of how AgilePoint can help bring together multiple discrete N8N workflows and make them a highly dynamic end-to-end orchestration, and have a better idea of how to leverage both the inline activities for N8N and the AI Control Tower. Thank you so much for watching. Talk to you soon.